What is 21 kilometres long with over 150 corners and nestled deep inside the Eifel Mountains in Germany, and last weekend it had over 15 Mark 1 TTs rattling around it? That's right, it's the Nürburgring. I'm Andy and this is the Nürburgring 2023 vlog.
After a 6 AM rendezvous in Dover, a selection of Mark 1 and Mark 2 Audi TTs were joined by Emily and me in the Tondeo, as we called it, and headed across France, Belgium, Holland and finally to Germany on a 260-mile convoy. Along for the ride was my buddy Warren, who doubled as a cameraman, which also allowed me to capture these stunning shots from our journey. A few familiar cars and faces were along for the ride, including Car Chris, who ferried fellow Mark 1 owner Lewis down in the passenger seat. Bryn from BWS TT was taking his race prep Mark 1, complete with ear defenders and bucket seats. Dom from the Parrot Bros was also here with his lovely Glacier Blue 225 and had helped arrange many of the activities while we were there. Kyle Stocks, who had opted for his 225 over V6 power due to exhaust concerns, was also here. And George Webb, who had decided the Mark II TTS was a better option than his modified Mark 1 track car. New to our road trips were a selection of great cars and people, including Hannah and Alex in their fabulous looking Merlin Coupe. Darren was also here in his Quattro Sport, although he did suffer a mechanical whilst there, which hampered his running time. Also in a Quattro Sport and coming along for the first time were Simon and Pete.
Looking nice and stealthy as always was Angelo in his fine specimen of a TT.
Another debutante for this journey was Daryl in his great standard Mark II. After purchasing her silver TT Coupe just a few weeks ago, Nikki had joined the fun along with her son Zach.
Next up we have the people with the longer journeys. Mark had already had a lengthy journey and this was his second ferry after he and his dad had made the crossing from Ireland the day before. However, winning the trophy for longest travelled was Luis and his brother Robinson, who had flown over from Texas, yes Texas, to race around the ring. They had borrowed a freshly prepped car from Bryn for this adventure and to achieve a lifelong dream. Being part of an Audi TT convoy never gets old, and it's always a privilege to see so many of these old and not so old cars together. I wonder what goes through the minds of other motorists as they see these 20-year-old cars cruising along together in a line, all polished up and looking like they rolled out of the factory hours earlier. Well, on the whole they do. It just goes to show you the passion and effort that goes into keeping these cars on the road and the condition that enthusiasts have maintained them to. As the team were a long way from home, there were a selection of spares along for the trip to get people out of bother and split between the cars. So there were coil packs, maths, cable ties and a variety of tools, and I had a full-size spare for a TT in the boot, just in case someone had the misfortune of a flat on the journey. Between the travelling party, we were fortunate enough to have some great mechanical skills. It's not just racing around the ring on offer at Nürburgring. No, there are a whole host of things to do in the local area. And one day we went off to a local toboggan run to practice our bobsledding and cornering. Interesting to see 20 adults turn into excited kids as they hurtle down a metal track. €3 a run, so a cheap thrill too. Oh, and Tom from the Motor Monkeys has a message for you. Go on you Motor Monkey!
Subscribe and share!
Back at the ring itself, there is an excellent indoor go-karting track, so you can get used to car control within tight margins or bash your mates out of the way as you try to earn fastest lap bragging rights. If you're not interested in the driving side, you can hop into the museum to check out the history of the track and see some very special cars on display. It's €11 for the museum and you can rattle around it in 30 minutes if you want, or take a bit longer if you want to absorb all the nostalgia. Right, let's take a closer look at this track. If you are visiting the Nürburgring to spectate, and I highly recommend that you do that, it has some famous viewing places around the track with car parking, standing areas with camera slots in the fencing and even refreshments and toilets at the most popular spots. We stood on 3 of these locations for the photos and clips in this video, and all 3 gave a different aspect of the track. Our first viewing location was called Adenauer Force, and it gives you about half a kilometre of track viewing from one spot, if you move around. After watching a procession of cars go by, we get to feast our eyes on a fellow Mark 1 TT representing In the Wet. This is a fast uphill run after a long and steep downhill.
John, take me outside!
That culminates in our left-right bend combination before it's flat out down a straight and off into the distance. The smell of brakes and clutch here was quite strong as cars struggled to get stopped in time to go around the bends. This introduces some great viewing, particularly as the track moves from a dry to wet condition, as many get it wrong here and end up sliding over the curbs. You will also see some giving it full send around this corner as they show off their drifting talents out of the final bend. What I noticed as cars tried to stop is that you can see the brakes glowing red hot, just like an F1 car. We took some great photos of the guys and girls at this location, as it gives you a great view for a decent period of time to frame it, and also slow enough on the corners to get some crisp images. Just a little further around the track, and one of the easiest to access is the bridge over Adenauer in the village. You can park in the Pit Stop Cafe, walk across the road, up a set of stairs, and boom, you are faced with people bombing downhill, taking a decent left-hander and then launching off into the sky, it feels, as the cars climb out of sight over the bridge.
Yeah, I went to the ring.
This was my first view of the cars in anger, and I was a bit struck by the speed at which cars are approaching the corner, shooting around it and also overtaking slower cars. This is also a great location if you want to watch and grab some food close to town, as there are supermarkets and pizza shops within walking distance. Although this looks spectacular, from a photography perspective, you do not really get a good look at the cars here, as you're either above them or behind them as they whiz out of view. No visit to the track is complete without a trip to YouTube Corner, also called Brunchen. This is the classic corner that many of the blooper type pictures are taken from. The cars have come into this after cranking around the carousel corner, which is just down the road, and you can overcook the entrance. There is a slight left-right complex as cars then descend to another right-hander, and it's here cars tend to go off. We were there for a fair few hours and we did not see anyone get it seriously wrong. I think that tourist cars are well aware of this corner and no one wants to make the highlight reel. Again, this is a great photo location and it proves very popular. There is a big car park here as well as toilets and refreshments, and it's only around 3 kilometres from the start. You can see from these images how great the backdrop is with the painted wording on the track when framing the cars for photos. The start area is a bit like Bedlam. It's a huge car park of all sorts of supercars, classics, modified cars from yesteryear, as well as some very cheap looking cars that are all here for one reason: to send it. There is a cafe and toilets for spectators and drivers alike, as well as a ticket office and a gift shop. The view of the track is pretty limited here, so if you've come to view, I would say look elsewhere around the track. However, it does give you a really good cross-section of the posh cars. Other famous corners such as the carousel are accessible on foot, but tend to be a long walk with limited parking, hence why we gave those a miss. Although I did not have my TT with me, I did not let that stop me going around the track. I hopped in the passenger seat of my buddy Lewis's car and he took me on a trip, and here's the best bits of our lap. So we are mid-lap on my very first lap of the Nürburgring, the Nordschleife, and I'm here with Luis all the way from Houston in the US. So Luis has kindly offered to take me around on a lap because I don't have my TT here. So we are, yeah, probably halfway round. The smell of brake dust is everywhere. Smoking tyres, smoking brakes, smoking clutches.
Yes.
Just the one thing I didn't realise about this lap is how undulating and the altitude you do. You know, it's
the altitude change is mind-blowing. Look at this.
You don't appreciate that when you see a lap on a camera.
Yes.
But I can feel it. I'm going downhill. I know that.
And we're going down, then we're going back uphill.
Yeah. So as we come back up, I think the fellow YouTubers, wow, are off to the left-hand side. We go. Wow, I can feel my ears popping on the altitude.
Yes. Exactly, mine did too, my last lap.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for joining me. Super fun trip so far. So
it's been good, isn't it, so far? We've had a great time, done some great things. Now I think there's our guys. What's up?
Where's some of our friends going?
Wow, whoa, he's a bit close. Wow. So we just had a very close shave there with a fellow Mark 1 who is going
really
rather quick into that corner.
That's pretty cool.
That TT that just got a little too close to us on this lap was an Irish registered TT who was not the one with our party. And the very next day, this TT ended up in the Armco barriers, causing a track closure. You can see the car in the barriers in Carl Chris's video as he went past just after it happened. Guys, I'm gutted for you, and if you're watching this, I hope you're all okay, and commiserations on the car. Right, back to the lap. We're in the lap now. Would you say we are halfway, or?
No, not yet. We're probably first third of the lap. I'll just start going downhill to the slowest section, and then we'll come back up. We're at kilometer 8.
So we're coming up to a section now that we were standing at last night watching some fellow drivers. Wow. I don't know if you can hear that on the camera, but people are coming past us like there's no tomorrow. And that's the thing, you know, I can feel in the car, we are moving, we are shifting down this track, but the feeling these other cars give you is that you're static. It's crazy.
They're going really fast.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, there's two things. We're going really fast and we're not. Like I said, thanks to Bryn for lending me this car.
Yeah, so
that was really cool. So I want to return it to him in one piece.
Absolutely. Bryn has prepped this car a couple of days before Luis has come to the UK to take it on this trip. So it's been prepped especially for this. And yeah, we were standing there last night watching these cars come around. It's quite a good cars are coming through here and zipping straight up this corner.
It's been worth this trip for sure.
Yeah.
Coming all the way from the US, hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have literally come to the UK for this trip alone.
Just for this trip alone, yes.
So
I have two TTs back home, V6 Special Edition 2006, DSG, and I have a 2001 225 convertible that I track sometimes.
We've got the same cars. We've both got V6 Coupes and 225 Roadsters.
That's right.
So we know the pains of both cars.
It's really tight.
Whoa, that is seriously tight, that one.
Now we're gonna go back up and head into a little bit of a faster section.
I mean, I can't imagine. Did you see that car twitch then?
Yep.
Wow.
They're going on the limit of the adhesion of the tire.
You are literally a fellow TT.
Yeah.
You are a split second from disaster on these roads. Yeah.
From being in the same place at the same time, which is not good.
Yeah. Yeah, and these barriers that we see, if you come off the track and you damage the barrier, you have to pay for it.
You have to pay for it, yes.
If you break down the track and you get recovered, you have to pay for it.
Yeah.
And they're the things that people don't realise about coming to the Nürburgring. If you come to the Nürburgring, bring your car, you have to factor in all the eventualities, as we have seen a few cars, let's say in the bushes.
Yes.
And they're not going to be going home in one one piece.
Last lap there were 2 cars wrecked on track, right? So
Yeah.
And same yesterday, we saw 2 cars recover, you know, completely total loss.
So we're coming up to the infamous carousel. So this is a very famous corner, and if you look at this banking, whoa, I can't even hold the camera straight. Whoa, that's crazy.
That right there is worth it.
Yeah.
The toll charge alone.
Even though it felt like we were fairly rapid around this track, it is somewhat astonishing when what I would class as everyday cars are ripping right past you.
And that.
Yeah. That car is shifting. Now this is YouTube corner, I believe. This is where people lose it, come off the track.
Yeah.
Massive thank you to Luis for being my pilot on this thrilling ride. We were also joined on the weekend by German-based Mexican Victor, who had arranged to drive over in his red Roadster and join the fun. He had a very nice car and presented me with a TT branded water bottle, which I was most amazed by. Thank you so much, Victor. We all met up for a barbecue and a TT lineup at the start of the track on Saturday evening, so we could talk TTs, enjoy some food and of course a few beers. So here are many of the usual suspects from the trip. So that's it for 2023 at the Nürburgring for the Audi TTs. I want to thank you for joining me on the channel. We've all had a great time. So if you like what you've seen today, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and also think about subscribing to my channel, where you'll find a whole host of content on the Audi TT Mark 1. As always, thanks for watching and see you soon. Take care.